Hello, 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 and thank you for making the choice to click in to chat with Trina. Today is Talk About It Tuesday, and it's also Women's History Month. And today I am recognizing Mrs. Cleo Johnson-McLaughlin. Today she's going to join us and talk to us a lot about voting, our rights, standing up for what we believe in, and making sure that our voices are heard and counted. We'll talk a little bit about the census and why that's so important. And again, we want to get the information out to ex-offenders that you do have some rights in this voting process. So guys, let's turn it on over to Miss Cleo.
Hello, 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 everybody. This is Miss Trina with Chat with Trina. And of course, on Tuesday, we have Talk About It Tuesday, to where we talk about different topics and subjects. And today, there's one that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm meeting with I'm going to say her whole name. I always say Miss Cleo because it's easy, but it's Miss Cleo Glenn Johnson McLaughlin. Yes?
Yes, that's it.
And what I didn't tell you is that today I am actually recognizing you as my Women's History Month honoree for today. So I want to let you know, thank you for all you do to keeping us informed. And yes, I thank you so much. But let me tell you real quick. Miss Cleo Johnson-McLaughlin has dedicated her life to the service of others, from fighting for equal rights and equal access in the workplace, rebelling against dependencies and charity slavery, advocating for elderly with Alzheimer's, and supporting veterans have been paramount in her life. She's currently, and I thought this was so interesting, she works with towards social change in several African countries, specifically Kenya and Nigeria. And it's cool because the funds that she's raising are to purchase 8 soap making and 8 sanitary napkin making machines. Oh, 8 soap making machines and 8 sanitary napkin machines, so that women may create jobs and have a hygienic lifestyle. Okay, that's awesome. Additionally, her commitments for social change focuses on finding ways to help second chancers succeed through employment, helping those starting a nonprofit 501(c), and those interested in starting a business for profit to become certified. Um, she has been honored as a living legend by a Philip Randolph Institute. Ms. Johnson-McLaughlin, for over 32 years, has helped to educate and empower an entire generation to concentrate on and adopt philanthropy as a way of life. Love that. Part of her legacy A part of her legacy was and is to economically empower self and community through the Black United Fund of Texas. I remember that. That's when I first found out about Miss Cleo, through my mom. And now Miss Johnson-McLaughlin has served as President Emeritus. She's passed down the baton to Marcus Glenn, the new president. I do want to mention that, she spreads into the food industry. She was a co-owner of Bees Cafe, and Aunt Bee's Catering with her husband and daughter. She did win the National Soul Food Competition in 2020 and 2016, and has appeared on the Food Network Clash of the Grandmas in Hollywood, California. Wow.
Right.
This bio is just a snapshot. Oh, I want to go back up something that's really important that I missed. Miss Cleo she's well known in the political realm as a special assistant and community outreach specialist for the late Congressman Mickey Leland. And more recently, she's the mother of the district for District 139, represented by her son, the state representative Jarvis Johnson. And this is just a snapshot of her life and all the things that she does. And she does give honor to her mother, Father God, for all her blessings. And she loves her children and grandchildren and all the friends that support her efforts. And again, guys, I am recognizing Miss Cleo Johnson-McLaughlin as my Women History Person of the Month for this year. Hi, Miss Cleo.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How are you?
How you doing? But no, I just want
fine.
to, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk about voter registration and those people we've got to find, and we've got to get as many people voting. And of course, everyone that's tuning in, I hope that they take it seriously, because I do want more than just a select few people to become deputies to register people to vote. I mean, you don't need any specific qualifications. You just need to sign up, take the class, which is about 45 minutes to an hour, and learn how to get people registered so we can have a better economy, a community, and a lifestyle. And let me just share with you why this impacted me even more this time around than it has in the past. Yes, when I worked for the late congressman, that we did voter registration all the time. We did it in shopping centers. We did it wherever we could in public places. That doesn't really happen like we used to do it. Not enough people get out on election day and drive through the communities and saying, go to the polls and vote. Sometimes people do forget, and we just kind of leave it up to people to remember. But ended up receiving something on email back, I want to say after the election, and it disturbed me highly because this is 2016. And this just goes to show you that if we are involved, we can have a tremendous impact. And this is the reason why the suppression is happening, why there is a push to do all kinds of things that are unnecessary to block us from voting. Let me give you what this is. This is in 2016, Trump won Wisconsin by 23,000 votes. The state is Wisconsin. The city is Milwaukee, all right? But in Milwaukee, 93,000 Blacks did not vote.
Wow.
Oh, you got it? See,
Wow.
in one city, in the whole state, and he only won the state by 23,000 votes. You realize what would have happened had those people voted? And Trump won Florida by 113,000 votes. In Miami, 379,000 Blacks did not vote. Michigan, he won by 11,000 votes. In Detroit alone, 277,000 Blacks did not vote. In Pennsylvania, 44,000, Pennsylvania, 44,000 votes. He won. He won by 44,000 votes. Philadelphia, 238,000 Blacks did not vote. And lastly, Georgia, he won by 211,000 votes. In Atlanta alone, 530,000 Blacks did not vote. And so when I saw this, and let me say this to you, you know, people go and do their fact finding and they can go on and say, oh, well, no, that's not true. But let me say what is true. It motivated me to make sure that this never be a reality again. Okay. So whether these figures come out right or wrong, it's a motivator to say, if we would vote and when we vote, we do have an impact. So 2020, yes, we did have an impact. Now here's where we're taking the blunt of, I guess, what everybody's saying about how we voted in Georgia and how we're voting. But he did not lose just because we went and voted. He also lost because whites didn't vote for him either. Okay? Bear in mind, they voted for Biden, and then they voted for their Republican senator and congressperson and state elected official. They did not vote for Trump. So it wasn't just because we voted, they didn't vote for him. And so to me, it says volumes that the other community is not as gun-ho as people want to continue to say, well, you know, he has 70 million supporters. But guess what? The reason why Biden won was because part of those that he lost came over to the other side. So here again, when people vote, they can make changes. When people vote, they have a voice. And when people vote, they can get things done. All right, I'm gonna give it to you now.
That's what it is something. Now that is definitely my frustration though is sometimes when you tell people, even saying those facts to them or just saying anything, hey, you need to get out the vote. And I mentioned you before we got on that, you know, people will say things like, you know, they'll say your vote doesn't matter. Or I even try to use that, what I mentioned to you was guys, look at how much they're trying to keep us from voting. So you must know that there's something to this. What do you say to people when you're trying to encourage them when they seem so adamant about not voting?
Well, what you have to get people to understand is that you think that your vote does not count, or you think that your voting will not make a difference. But here's where it makes a difference. You've got to understand the process of life is government controlled. How much we pay for milk, how much we pay for bread, how much we pay for electricity, how much we pay for cars, license, you name it. There is nothing out there government is not involved in. So the bottom line to it is that you can say it doesn't make a difference, but it makes a difference when your utilities go up and you can contact your elected official and say, I'm having problems. You know, my water bill is $300 and I'm not at home. Well, the process is that elected official can check on that and get that handled to help you make sure that you're not being charged incorrectly. So you got to get people to understand that there is nothing in life that we do. And then let me give you a better point. When we don't vote and then we complain about what we don't have. Well, you got to understand that people that vote and pay taxes get solutions by who they are. When you vote in communities, everybody knows who's voting. And I meant to pull up something I read the other day that said the reason why certain things occur, like for instance, why certain ways in which the Department of Transportation started cutting through the Black community back in the 1950s and cut those communities up is because they knew they didn't have anybody that was going to complain. They knew that the voter wasn't there to stop them. They knew that. So the elected official didn't have anything to worry about because the people weren't really voting at that level. So they were not a force to be reckoned with.
Right.
When you vote, you now, that elected official recognizes, look, these are my constituents. You can't, move them out of my space and understand what needs to be done and how it should be done. Monies are allocated into all communities based on the number of people that are counted. If we don't get counted, then the right amount of money is not allocated to do what those communities need. Okay, so census is not about how many TVs you got in your house. It's about how many people lives in the community. Because see, a long time ago when I was young, they would say, "Oh no, you don't want to get counted because they're going to count you how many TVs you got." And and these people are like on living in Kelly Court somewhere, and they didn't want to get counted until we got them to understand. No. We're trying to get funds into our community so we can fix the streets and get infrastructure done better and make sure that we have schools and the schools have what they need. All of that comes from voting and from being counted in the census. Now, lastly, we can talk about, I don't believe in big government and they're not going to do anything anyway. But when you get sick and you don't have insurance, where do you think people go? They go to LBJ, or they go to I don't forget what's the other one down?
Bentob.
Okay, yes. You don't have insurance. Who do you think paid for your service? The taxpayers, the people that vote, and government takes care of you when you don't have anything to take care of yourself. And so here again, it's important that we understand you got food stamps because it's something that we provide for people who are in need. You get housing because we're trying to make sure people aren't living on the streets.
Right.
All of this is government, and all of it deserves to have a representative. Now, what we tend to think is that our representative is our get all things done. And when they don't do for us, and I'm gonna say this because
Yeah.
one lady said to me, I didn't vote for Obama because he didn't do nothing for me. Well, life is not about you. It is about all of us. And no elected official is elected for any individual needs. It's for to impact all of our needs and make sure that we are able to
Exactly.
get what we need in order for us to have a better lifestyle. Okay.
Yeah.
So when people complain about, well, they didn't do this or he didn't do that or she didn't do this, well, we got to look at what is it that they're doing that's having an impact on all of us.
Yeah.
So that we now understand, see, God didn't make you to come here to be about somebody else helping you. He's giving you everything you need to help yourself.
Yeah.
Now, man can assist, but God has given that to you. And when you shove off God, like, well, I need my elected official to do this, you're saying that, hey, God is not doing anything. So we got to understand that in this world, there's more to what we believe ought to be done for us as individuals, and recognize how to become a participant in our lives and not spectators. Spectators accept the way things are. Participants won't change, they get involved. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. We have got to become participants in our lives to control our destiny and not give our destiny to someone else.
Right.
No excuse for us not to have an ID, because let me tell you something. You go out there and somebody kill you or hurt you and you don't have no ID on you.
That is true.
You need to have something to say who you are. Okay? Whether it's a Texas ID card or something. Because it's not okay to be able, so people will know, well, is that Trina who? I mean, who knows her? And then you don't have nothing on you other than maybe a t-shirt that has Trina on you, but it doesn't actually say that's Trina. Okay, but let me go over here to the real part.
Okay.
I am 74 and a half years old. My mom and my dad had to walk to pay for poll taxes. I walked with them. I stood in line with them to vote half the night for them to vote in order for us to get representation. You know, if you're taxing me, I want to be represented. So we don't want taxation without representation. And that's what's happening to us, because we continue to allow the wrong people to get in office, even though we're paying taxes. I mean, look, this last administration lived off our tax dollars, which has never been heard of before. The things this man did was unheard of. Unheard of. Having his children on payroll, using the airplanes. When I worked for the congressman and I was a representative for the post office, a liaison, and they wanted to give me award, a gift because I had helped them, I was told I could not accept that gift because it was a conflict of interest. I could not accept the gift. But my goodness, I saw that I was so devastated over this last administration and the things that he was able to do. But what I'm also devastated by are the elected officials who will sit there
and allow
Democrats and Republicans and have allowed it. I mean, they could stop anything at any time, but they kept on allowing this bully and to do whatever he wanted to do to make him feel good about himself. But here again, when we talk about voting, too many people have died. Too many people have paid the price of broken bodies and minds for us to sit back today. You got that house you're living in because of the people who walked to the polls with what they had as an ID, poll taxes, to show I am a citizen in this city and I am paying taxes. You pay taxes every time you buy something. So don't think in terms of the taxes when you file with IRS. Think about every time you go to the store and buy gas and everything that gets taxed. But yet you're not willing to have a voice. So you're being taxed without representation because you're not participating.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the people who have paid the price, who have gone the 1,000 miles to make sure you were able to live the life you're living today,
Yeah.
then we need to be respectful of those ancestors that have done all that they could do, from taking what was given to them all the way down to dying, for us to be where we are today. And so we should not back up and give up, no matter who we are, even if we are an ex-offender. If you need an ID, go get one.
Yeah.
Don't let anything and
See the
anybody
reason.
get in your way to not go and vote. Whether you are old, and I'm old, and that's no joke. but my point is that we can still make sure you get to the polls. We can still make sure that your vote counts, and we need to make sure that you're a participant.
Yes,
so
I get that.
Here
so
again,
don't make that an excuse of why you can't vote.
That's right.
That makes
we
sense.
Don't need that.
So ex-offenders, what are if someone's an ex-offender, which ones are able to vote? Are there certain criteria?
So let me put it to you this way. If you're in jail, if you're incarcerated, if you right now would go to jail because you got some outstanding warrants or whatever, and you're in jail for like 6 months, and a voting time comes around, you can ask the administration to give you a card so you can vote. If you're already a voter, you can also ask them for a voter registration card so that you can get registered to vote. As long as you've not been charged with a felony. Felons, once they're out, once they have paid their dues, such as, all fines, all parole, probation, all of those things connected to their release, after that, their voting privilege is automatically restored. And the interesting thing about it is that they should know that. Texas is about, even though Texas is a, jackass, voting rights restored automatically upon completion of sentence, including prison, both parole and probation, in about 34 other states, and Texas is one of them.
That's crazy.
And so, let me read this way, for misdemeanor convictions in Texas, you do not lose your right to vote if you are convicted of a misdemeanor in Texas. If you are incarcerated for a misdemeanor, you should check your voter registration status, register to vote if necessary, and request an absentee ballot from office administration at your complex, wherever you are. And so people have been able to, when I was working for Mickey, we used to go into the jails, into the prisons, who was not charged with a felony. They actually could vote. So it's not like this is a new thing. This has been around a very long time. And I'm just amazed at how many of our young people, I'm calling them young because they're all younger than me, do not know that they can vote. Now, here's where the ex-offender should understand who he is and she is. You have lived in an environment that has not been conducive to a lifestyle that you would wish on anyone, if you would. Even though I do know a couple of guys who figured they couldn't live anyplace else but jail. But eventually, when they got a better taste of life, they didn't go back anymore. But my point is that you should understand how to correct the system that you just came out of. It does need to be corrected. Yes, there needs to be a better facility to offer more options. Now, when I served on the CETA board under Governor Ann Richards, I questioned why people did not finish elementary school when they were in prison. If they were in prison, they said, well, if they cannot comprehend on a 3rd grade level, then they don't bother with them. But here's my problem. You got these people here. You got undivided attention. They need to be educated. It's obvious that they missed something out here. Perhaps there were no parents involved. Maybe there were no parents, no family involved. And they're not there just because They want to be there, but because they haven't had any way to navigate the system, society, or life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you do something wrong, you get sent up for little or nothing because you're poor. And we become statistics, and we also become a moneymaker for other people when they are owning and controlling the prisons. But you're coming out of that system. So let's see, how do we fix that? If he does not have but a third grade education, then let's put him in elementary school. Let's let him finish elementary school. Let's let him finish junior. I think if you got him undivided, educate him.
Where is he
There's
going?
nothing wrong with that. Thank you. Nowhere. To get up and go to school, study at night. If that way, they wouldn't have, I believe, all these disturbances, because he, again, and I'm gonna use a young lady that I did know, who had been she had been in prison, but she didn't finish high school. She was in high school as long as she could run track. And when she was no longer able or qualified to run track, because she was an unbelievable track runner.
Wow.
When she no longer qualified, the school was like, well, you ain't got no place here. And they kind of dismissed her. Well, she got in trouble. Here was her biggest problem. She went around people to learn from them, but she also resented them because she couldn't read. But the thing that was amazing to me, she could count like a genius. No one built on what she was good at or in.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, she continued to live life on the edge. And she did things, and at some point she ended up getting run over by a car because she had, she became like, I'm invincible.
Right. Wow.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But we fail to realize that there are a lot of young people who've been misled, misguided within whatever family structure they had or did not have. But if we got them in prison, why can't we fix it? So my ex-offender sisters and brothers need to understand, you are the vehicle by which we can get this prison system fixed. You got to demand what you need. How do we fix this? How do we make it I'm not going to use the word palatable, because prison was never palatable, but how do we make it so that if you are there, this person can come out and be a productive, contributing citizen, and they are becoming a full member of society, not just one who's paid his debt to society, and not one who's going to a job every day, and he has more worth than that, because everybody looks down at him, because when he could get a degree while he's in prison and do far much better.
Definitely.
He does not have to come back. So Miss Trina, they can vote. All they got to do is do the process.
It's just that they don't push that or promote that or market that to them when they get out, or no one tells them that. That is really good to know.
No.
Okay.
Yes, they can. And people can find it online. It's just it's amazing. And that's, and a long time ago there was a group called Over the Hill, and it was made up of ex-offenders, and they went to prison all year round, getting people registered and getting people to vote. And so we don't have that anymore. Not in the way in which Over the Hill did it, but they were a tremendous asset to the community who were, ex-offenders. And so we just need to get back to doing some things that worked back then. Nothing's wrong with what used to work, because as we try to modernize everything, we're losing the ability to think. Now we're only thinking on what to think, and we don't know how to think.
How to think.
When you don't know how to think, you don't get solutions. You just continue to talk about the problem. Anytime, like right now, you don't even have to look at Georgia. You can look at Texas, who's doing some crazy, irresponsible, disgusting things. Because you don't have enough Democrats, whether you're talking about Georgia or Texas. And you don't have enough people on the other side to be compassionate about the needs of people. Here again, when I talk about voting, I'm talking about when you vote, you can unseat people. I mean, that's how people can stop things from going wrong or from happening in their community is when your elected official recognizes that I got a power base here. We can unseat you, sir. You know, you're not meeting our needs. We're not getting the water. We're not getting, you know, the services. We're not, based on what is that they are in charge of. So you see, they can vote like right now all across the country. To be honest with you, they're doing ridiculous things with voter suppression of any kind, and it has to do with who is in these elected seats and how many votes you have. Now, problem I got right now, you got, I think, 5 or 8 Democrats who did not vote for the $15 minimum wage. Okay, so my problem with them is they need to be unseated. And they basically were more than likely, they were Republicans camouflaging as Democrats to get elected.
As Democrats. Yeah.
So we need to become more astute on what games people play and how people can get in office and really not be on our side. Okay, because that is uncalled for, because we thought we had the votes, right? But when you got 8 Democrats voting against something that we would have believed that you were with us, you're over here siding with the other folks.
With the other side.
What does that say?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got to be mindful of who's being elected. And so let's say you have to look at where all the seats are and see where those communities, how those communities are being designed. Now, that's what they come in to cut up the districts in order to shift it so that some people can't get elected and other people can't. So if you put somebody in a district that is going to be predominantly white, then you're going to make sure that that seat is never going to be changed out. Not unless the people decide, this is not working. I don't care who he is. He's not doing the job that we all need. So we've got to be able to come together as voters. That's the participant in us. The participant will change. So we make that change by unseating those who are not doing the job that is serving all the people.
Right.
Not just a select few. And when we talk about all the people, it's bad when you have a district where you have a mixed district and only a certain community get addressed. And that can very well happen. So the participant in the community need to understand, how do I involve myself with my elected official? And being Jarvis Johnson's mother, I think that all of his constituents need to understand how to communicate with him. I mean, he can't be everywhere all the time. He can't do everything for everybody, but you surely could participate in giving him some ideas, some thoughts, showing him some things, because you're on the ground in the community. Right. So he needs your arms and, just like the Lord needs us. That's right. The Lord needs us down here to be his little disciples, right? So he gives us arms and legs to go out there and help other folks. Right. Same with our elected officials. So we need to understand how these things happen. And Abram is trying her best to make sure, see, even though they voted for the 2 men that got in, they still are saddled with the majority of the majority of the people are still Republicans that are in the seats. Now, let me move over a little bit so you can understand another thing. We're talking about different levels of government. And that's the other thing we need to understand. It doesn't do you as much good to just vote in the presidential election. Yes, that has an impact at some point. But your local government is what makes things change, happen, or destroy you, or hold you hostage. So you got to make sure on your state level, from your governor, your attorney general, all of those people that are in line down to your state representative, state senators, and so you be mixing apples and oranges. What ought to be done on a federal level, you deal with the federal level. What should be, and remember, the state people create laws. Monies come from Washington, they come down through the state, and the state then disperse down to the city. But on the state level, the elected official make laws. They write bills all the time. In order for what transpires in Texas to be that transpires in Texas. So your state legislators write the laws that affect you state level. And your congressional people do something that is going to impact the entire country. Not just a particular city, but you are there at the table because you are part of the United States.
Right.
But your state government, powerful. Your city government is powerful. They're the ones on the ground with you every day. They're the ones who's dealing with those things that, from our streets, the infrastructure, when the bridges fall. You got to recognize who does what. You can't just call on any of them and say, I want, let me put it, let's use the water bill again. I mean, that's been a big thing here lately. Is to say, Johnson didn't help me with my water bill. Well, he can't. That's not his job. He can refer you to your city council person, who then they can work together to help you. But that's not part of his description as to why he is in Austin. He's not there for your local city water, because in Houston, Baytown, Pasadena, all of them got different services.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't look at that as if everything is collected. All of it is together. And so we got to
like he's your personal fixer.
And the same thing with an electric bill. All of those things you got to deal with. Once you're able to let collectively let your elected officials know in writing. Let them know in writing that this is a problem, and I'd like you to look at it. You have your state senators and you have your state representatives, and all of them play a role. And if you actually write them, and let me give you an example. I was saying to someone how to actually try to deal with being in business, and all of our businesses should be certified, so that I don't care what you're doing. Get certified just in case a particular job comes up, and I'm in the food industry. So let me be sure I'm certified. So in case Williams' brother has a job over on the freeway and they want somebody to come cater, well, they're going to look at the list. I didn't have to have a building, just as long as I could cater for them. Right. So all I'm saying to you is that we've got to understand how to make our business work. On the other hand, if you are not getting business, then I wouldn't just write one elected official. You can't write just State Representative Johnson and say, we have a problem out here with the utility bills. Write every one of them. Write all of the elected officials. All of them got to vote on this stuff.
Yeah, that
it's
makes
not
sense.
Just his vote and not his voice, but you've got to exercise your rights by communicating with all the elected officials. Yes, you might be in his district, and it'll come back to him as a district item. But what you do is give him power to fight for you, because everybody knows that there is a need. Okay? And we tend to do it in isolation. And all I want us to do is to break out of that isolation. Use the process you've been taxed to take care of. And let's change our community and get it fixed.
And the way to do that is to pull in. It's when you think about it and you're talking, it's in my mind, just thinking about is we actually have the power. Like we have the power to make the change. It's just we have to do it and put the work in.
Right. You got to, and you can't expect it to be done just by him or one person. You have got to get all of them involved. And that's where we've missed the boat. We've missed the boat simply because we tend to only talk to one elected official. I mean, you have no idea how many people call me because I'm his mama.
I can imagine.
And I'm like, well, now I tell you what, you need to talk to your city council person. We don't know what these people do. And I think that's what we need to be more involved in, making sure on our church level. Our church has got to hold workshops, seminars, teaching our
Yes.
people on what level so that we can be that force we used to be when
Right.
people couldn't just come in, take away. See, back in the 50s, when they came through and took and built all those freeways through the Black neighborhoods and disconnected, well, they could do that because they felt that we didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
But we learned, we got that voice, we took that power and we exercised it, and everybody got the genuflect. And I remember when McGovern and all of them came to Fifth Ward to meet with the community who were running for president. But now, you know, they do it in isolation because because they know how many of our young people have become lackadaisical about voting, you know, and so here again, I just want us to understand that if you want what you want to change, then vote. And then you can have a voice louder than the thunder. But if you don't vote, we cannot get heard because we're not willing to participate. We don't want change when we don't vote.
Right.
You only want change when you participate. So we got to vote. We got to volunteer. And that's another thing. Our young people got to understand. Volunteer. Call us an elected official. Find out what you can do to volunteer, to learn the process so that when you get ready to go to college, volunteering is top notch in some universities. That is a key role that they look at when they see that you volunteer to do voter registration, senior citizens, and all kinds of things. That says a lot about that person, you know. So we just got a lot of things that we got to relive, not and learn over again. This is not our first rodeo. This is not our first go around. We need to go back.
Mickey Leland, I just wanted to ask, because I didn't know, I was very young when he passed, but what was his passion? What did he work for when he was in office? Was it ex-offenders and stuff like that? What was his thing?
Well, let me say this about him. Before he became an elected official, he worked in the community. And he and some students from the University of Houston started doing clinics in low-income, quote-unquote, ghetto areas, if you will. And that was basically right after the Civil Rights Bill had been passed. And so Mickey, had no limitations when it came down to being able to help someone. He wanted to make sure that they got good health care. So healthcare was his passion. And when he ran to become a state legislator, he basically ran on the fact that he wanted to, get healthcare for everybody and so forth and so on. And he basically dealt with his passion as being that was needed in the district that he represented. So, part of his district was Fifth Ward at that time. And so as a now when Mickey did write legislation for the state of Texas, and when he got ready to leave to go to Congress, he took healthcare as his agenda to the U.S. Congress. And when he got to the U.S. Congress, Ted Kennedy was there. And he got with Ted Kennedy to talk about let's give healthcare to people. And this is how we could do it. Mickey was a certified licensed pharmacist. So he understood the need to have adequate, competent healthcare, especially for those who are less fortunate. And so even to the degree that he even wrote the legislation about the generic prescriptions and stuff, so that meant that people who couldn't afford what Tylenol cost, then there was one that they could afford that would have the same impact. Now, then Ted Kennedy and he got together. Mickey dies. And after Mickey dies and gone for a while, Ted Kennedy still carrying healthcare that Mickey Leland left with him. And then who came talking about healthcare? Barack Obama. So you see how our legacies continue to connect when we are doing something for all the people.
Yes.
It trickled down from the state of Texas all the way to the White House and around the country, all around the country. So
Yeah.
Mickey, healthcare was his passion. Now, eventually, he understood that maybe we need to make things a little bit different with prescription drugs, and not
Mm-hmm.
they shouldn't be so available. So we need to look
Mm-hmm.
at other ways. That's when you started having a influx of organic and holistic things coming
Oh.
to bear. Then the
Mm-hmm.
other part of Mickey, see, that was a part of Mickey that was in half. Half of him was healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
and that healthcare, and so he hired people. Let me back up a little before I go
Uh-huh.
into the other half of
Uh-huh.
Mickey.
Uh-huh.
All of us represented a component of the district. So I
Okay.
was his veteran, coastal, and prison liaison. That meant
Okay.
that anybody who was complaining from the prisons, they would contact, the letters would come to me.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever was talking about the postal workers needed help, that was me.
Mm-hmm.
And veterans, that was me. So
Okay.
whether, but now even though prison was state, it was in state prison.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it came to me was because, remember, the majority of the people that I ended up dealing with who were in prison were veterans.
Oh.
And that was a thing that he did not like. He wanted something done about veterans being in prison.
Yeah.
And so that became, I had to work, and so we started working with the state prison here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And we also work with the veterans at the VA,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, postal workers. And you had a lot of postal workers who were veterans. And so veterans were, he had many passions
Yeah. Okay.
because all these people had great needs, and he was there to represent those needs. So he hired people. So he had white, Hispanic, black in his office to directly deal with all of the problems of all the people. And so when we look, I ended up having to go into the Hispanic community, and I could only say hola. And so I had to start trying to find out what else do I need to say. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyway, so here in his district, yes, all those components got addressed.
Yeah.
All of them. I have talked numerous of veterans out of committing suicide. I have been threatened to be killed, and the VA called me and said, look, this man is coming over. He said he's gonna blow you and Mickey Leland out of this world. So I called Chief Brown's office, and he sent his assistant chief over to the office. And so he was outside because he was a veteran.
Mhm.
So he
Yeah.
was outside when the man got there.
Oh, so he really
You gotta
came?
calm down. He said, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. He really came. But now here's the deal. I never saw him because the assistant
Right.
chief
Mm-hmm.
came and said, look, we're gonna calm down, and I'm gonna work with Miss Cleo, and so that you don't have to be so hostile toward the congressman,
Yeah.
and we're gonna see what we can do. Well, I found out from the VA what was the problem, and then the chief
Mhm.
told me what the guy's problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked on it. And Clarence Sasser was my contact with the VA, and Clarence was tremendous. He knew how to get the job done and helping veterans. Now, on that same man who threatened to kill me, fast forward, I'm president of Black United Front of Texas, and maybe about almost 10 years. And this man starts to volunteering for us every day. He'd catch a bus and come in, and he would do everything around the place, unbelievable. He would stuff envelopes. He would do everything, all kind. And one day, the two of us were at the office, and he said, Miss Cleo, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. I said, what's wrong? He said, oh, nothing's wrong. He said, but I just want you to forgive me. And I said, forgive you? For what? I said, you're the best volunteer I've ever had. What are you talking about? He said, well, back when you worked for Mickey Leland, I'm the man who threatened to kill. I was like, well, Mr. Charles. He said, and I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry I never got a chance to apologize to Mickey. I said, don't worry, Mickey never knew about it. But it's okay. I understand. Because then I continued to work with him.
Yeah.
through the VA because he
Mhm.
really had serious problems. Even as a volunteer, I was
Mhm.
still working with him. So even when I took over Black and Annie Farm,
Yeah.
the things that I used to do in Mickey's office followed me.
Yeah.
Ex-offenders followed me. So I had my share. So,
That's so awesome.
my son is no different from me.
Mhm.
He and my son grew up in all of the things that I was doing. My son and my daughter was right there because I needed my volunteers and they were my best.
Yes.
I didn't have to worry about whether they were going to show up. I knew they were going to show
Right.
up. So, whereas she's a paralegal and whereas he's a state rep, we're able to do what we do. And he understands from when he was growing up and when he worked at a facility for people who were had become mentally incapacitated because of drugs
Mhm.
at 16.
Mm.
I was a board I was serving on. He'd have to go to meetings with me. I drug him to everything I went to. And upon doing
Yes, because he
that,
says he's called himself the drug baby or the drug.
that's right. He had to be in everything I did. He then, his first job, he became the recreation specialist for a mental health facility to help get the people out of their head and on the court and playing basketball. So it gave people different perspectives and the counseling and things that went much easier. They were able to rejoin their families. And so Jarvis knows firsthand
Mhm.
from the mentally people who have dealt with mental problems in various capacities. He worked for MHMRA in the jails to help people who have been put in that part of the jail. But he learned that from the ground. He saw what Mickey did. He was involved in developing part of the youth task force where the youth learn the process so that they would know what to do. And so that's what we need again. We don't have those things like we should. He does have a component of youth task force, but he needs a larger task force. We need them all over the city and in our communities, all over the city. So,
Well,
Mickey Leland, so here's another part. Girl, look here, I'm
yeah,
so much.
tell me the other part about Mickey Leland.
All right. So, Mickey, all his district, everything in his district you think of was his passion, honestly.
Yeah.
But then Africa, you couldn't touch it.
Oh.
Every president in Africa loved him.
Mm.
I mean, Fidel Castro loved Mickey too, because Mickey was that spirit.
Mm-hmm.
You did not meet a stranger. You did not meet someone that you had never met before. When you met him, you'd known him all your life. You could feel him, you could understand him, and you knew what he wanted and where he was going.
Yeah.
He did not put anybody aside. He was right there. Now, of course, because he and I grew up together, we had our challenges and we had our disagreements, male, female kind of thing. But I always won. I always won. He understood. Well, Cleo's gonna win anyway. So, but anyhow, he was passionate about Africa. And I guess that's probably where I got my exposure to Africa, because in 1985, he sent me to Kenya as one of the women of the United Nations Decade of the Woman. And I went and I was able to go into the community and find out the needs and learn a lot about what I didn't know. And so I brought back rocks and earth so I could kiss the dirt I actually came from. And I have rocks around my house from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Senegal, from everywhere. But no, passion. He had passions about the things to serve people and meet their needs.
Okay.
And that's what he was.
I bet that was an awesome experience to do that. I'm with the pandemic. There's so many things I had on the bucket list of I'm gonna do this one day. I'm gonna do that one day. I have definitely made some changes in my mind on things that I want to do, and Africa is gonna have to definitely be something I want to do, and I have to make it happen. Miss Cleo, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. God, I learned so much. So thank you.
Well, and I hope I made it simple.
You did. Absolutely. No, you really did. And I, and that part about the volunteer
things we didn't talk about. We said city council people. But one of the things that we forget that we have is that we have an at-large city council person that nobody ever talks to really, but every blue moon. and that person, that person, those at-large city council people are part of the whole city. They are not just a district. They are at large, meaning that they are all over the city. So
Oh,
they can address any issue anywhere. They can get with your district city council person to address that need. So you got to know all the people we
yeah,
need to engage so that we can get the things that we feel need addressing addressed.
addressed.
Okay. And so, hey, Representative Johnson, you just go to his website or his Facebook page, and there's something that you fill out. They'll
Hmm.
say, fill out,
Hmm.
tell them you want to volunteer.
And he also
And
sends out
so
an awesome
that
newsletter every week.
yes, he does. He does send out his news. He tries to keep people
Hmm.
updated on, and I'm so proud of one of the things that he's doing. My mom was a foster parent of 76
Hmm.
kids, my mother and father. And when Jarvis first went to Austin, one of the things that he did get involved in was foster care.
Hmm.
Where, see, what people don't realize, too many of our kids coming out of foster care, when they age out, many times that they are just kind of disconnected from. Remember, they don't have a family or life.
Yeah.
But those foster kids can go to school. They can go to college or trade school,
Yes.
um, just with an application based on what he's doing, and
Hmm.
the fact that these kids are pipelined almost into prison. So he's trying to break that pipeline so those kids can learn how to have a wholesome life, a productive life through legislation. So that's part of the things that he's doing
Oh,
right
that's
now.
awesome. That's
So
definitely awesome.
I like the fact that, yeah, that he is working with foster care children. And so we got a foster child. My daughter has a foster child. So
Oh,
you just know the needs of the people, and you make it work, and you make it
yeah.
you know what they need, and so they're more than just that person. You know that
Hmm.
others need it too. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's how you get involved. You just pick up that phone and call and say, "I want to volunteer,"
Well,
and
Miss Cleo, I
that's
want to
right.
thank
You
you
don't have.
again for our conversation today on Talk About It Tuesday. And thank you so much. Happy Women's History Month. And I can't wait to have something else to talk about with you again. I learned so much today.
All
So
right, we'll
thank
have
you
something.
so
I'm
much.
sure. All
Of
right, thank
course.
you.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Okay,
Okay,
bye.
thank you.
Thank you again, Miss Cleo, for joining me tonight for Talk About It Tuesday with Chat with Trina. It was a lot of great information about the voting rights for ex-offenders and so much more. Guys, don't forget, we've got to have our voices heard, and in order to have our voices heard, we must get out there and vote. And hey, remember to subscribe and then hit the bell so you can be notified when I upload a new video.